Dr. Sandra Robertson, and I am here to discuss childhood scars. I have recently written a book called Childhood Scars, Release from Pain to Healing, and also a workbook to help with the activities for healing. The purpose of writing childhood scars is to help you heal from your childhood trauma. And what was the motivator that got me interested in writing this topic is because I identified that something was not quite right with me. I was very angry sometimes about certain situations that really, once I look back, I blew it out of proportion. I could have handled the situations differently. I am a doctor of philosophy in education, and you would think by now, after earning a doctor's degree, that I wouldn't have any trauma issues, especially childhood. I would have outgrown that. You never outgrow childhood scars. They come with you into adulthood. And that's what happened with me. And so what triggered me to really go inward and look at myself was a conversation that I had with the secretary. I was talking to a contractor on the phone about a matter within my department, and she walked by and she heard some bits of the conversation, immediately came into my office and took over the conversation. When she did that, it triggered me. And I put the phone on mute to tell her I was trying to explain what I was telling the contractor. But she was not listening. And she started screaming at me. And that's something that really triggered me. And my voice escalated and the matter got out of control. Immediately, I demanded that she left my office, and which she did. She later came back that afternoon to apologize for her behavior because she thought that I was saying something that the vice president had told us in a meeting that she did not want us discussing. But she didn't know that I'd already talked to the vice president that I was going to be having this conversation with the contractor, and she was in agreement with that. Now, if you really look at it, she was totally wrong to walk into my office, but I was wrong as well by my behavior. It was totally unprofessional. As I was walking out that afternoon, she came and she immediately said again she wanted to apologize. I abruptly told her I never want to talk to her ever again. Very, very challenging to say, but I was angry. I was upset. So as I was walking to my car, one of my colleagues said, "What in the world happened? We can hear your voice throughout the building. What went on?" Now, they didn't say anything about her voice. It was my voice that they heard. And I said it was a little altercation and then no big deal. I didn't want to rehash all of what had happened. And so as I entered into my car and I started thinking about what happened, I remembered in childhood how my mother used to holler at us. And especially me because I was the oldest child. And I hated when she would holler at me. It just did something to me. To me, hollering at a kid is the most demeaning thing that you can do. And I felt, and that's the way I felt. And also, she did not let me explain myself. That was another trigger, that my mother wouldn't let me explain myself. And I really, at that moment, seen that my behavior as an adult, as a professional, as a doctor, was still this little 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old child. And that I had to do something to heal from those childhood scars. I also can remember giving advice to some of my students whose behavior was totally inappropriate. Look, me giving someone advice about behavior. And then we had the pandemic, and I started seeing some of the behaviors of people. These were suppressed triggers that they had suppressed for a long period of time, just really acting out. And as the pandemic lifted and I had gotten laid off, my son said, I didn't know what to do. And my son said to me, why don't you write about your traumatic scars when you were a child? And I said, you know what, that's a good idea. And that's what birthed this book, Childhood Scars, Release from Pain to Healing. It is time that America heal. But how can you heal from something that you don't know exists? Childhood scars start as early as when the mother was carrying you in the womb and experienced some traumatic experiences, and those chemical reactions went to the fetus. So sometimes we're carrying childhood scars that we have no idea about. And that's why it's so hard to identify, medicate it, or try to heal the situation. So this book, no book is going to answer all of your questions, but this book here really has a lot of interesting topics that will help you identify traumatic events and experiences. Even if you, some people say, well, I wasn't traumatized as a child. Okay, but I read your book and I was able to identify with some of my students. I was able to identify with some of my coworkers, some of my bosses, some of my husband's family, my husband. So this book, not only, it's just not a book about just trauma. It's a book to help you identify some of your traumatic experiences, not only in you, but others as well, so we can have better relationships and that the next generation will not be affected by these scars like we will. I was telling you, let's go through some of the chapters that really, I have about 19 chapters in this book, but the deceptions of illusions and disillusionments and self-identity, the psychological effects of pain and suffering, the causes of certain childhood scars effect on planned and unplanned pregnancy. Everyone think that unplanned pregnancy, you have a lot of traumatic experiences, but in this book, I share some of the traumatic experiences you can have in a planned pregnancy as well. The brain development, how it affects brain development, and some of the generational scars that we get from this because it's passing on to the next generation. Unspoken attachments. Release from mental imprisonment. I tell you, I read this chapter on a regular basis, how we are in prison to our childhood scars when we can release it and live healthy lives. And this workbook will help a lot with your inner healing because you have so many activities in this workbook that is going to help you heal from your childhood scars. Now, I am starting a series of talks called Trauma Talks. And I want you right now, if you feel that the information that I have conveyed so far has really helped, click on the like button and the subscribe button so that you can get all of the upcoming trauma talks where I'm going to talk to people who have read my book, have done the workbook exercises, and they will share with you some of their experiences and how the book has helped them. How can I purchase this book? Well, you can purchase the book by going to Auntie San, AUNTIESAN, San.com, and you can purchase the book there. It will bring you directly to Amazon, and you can purchase the book through Amazon. Or you can Cash App me, and I will have my secretary mail you the book, and I will autograph the book and we will mail it to you. You have to, this book here has to be in everyone's home, because the next generation cannot suffer from these scars. We suffer when we have no knowledge. But when we have knowledge, we have what? We have power, and we can make the changes necessary. Join me, Tama Talks. You're just going to have a great time just listening to some of the people that have had tremendous traumatic experiences and healed from it. If you are with me in the healing process, join me and subscribe today so that you will get all of my videos, and we alone can continue the healing process, healing from our childhood scars. Thank you for joining me today, and have a fantastic day.